me say the Mama Podcast.
Mama Podcast.
Hi Mama, you're listening to the Mama Podcast. It's Sumaya here, the co-founder of Mama Emmy app. Mama Emmy is the first app to exclusively connect mothers across the Middle East, connect with like-minded mamas and create lifelong friendships. At Mama, we are all about connecting mamas to empower women. So let's join together and make this mission a reality. So this week I'm talking to the wonderful Michelle, who is the founder of Rebalance. I actually started the Rebalance Blast this week with them. So it started on Sunday and I'm telling you, my body is aching. It's working so well. In today's episode though, we talk all about what Rebalance is, how it helps postpartum mums and how they help moms get back into shape and what they can do to support moms during their fitness journey. Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining me and thank you for coming to speak to me on the Mama Podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's really exciting and nice to be able to have a chat with your listeners as well.
Yeah, I'm so excited to speak to you because for me, fitness, especially before I gave birth and the first year after I gave birth, is a big aspect of my life, of sort of integrating it into becoming a mom. So I'm really excited to learn more about from the other perspective, from someone who actually is into fitness and like delivering that to moms. I'm really excited to hear what you have to share about that. Before we start, I think it'd be a great way to start just by explaining what Rebalance is, what you do and how you managed to get to sort of building Rebalance.
So Rebalance is, the name says a lot actually. So Rebalance is all about helping mums to be and new mums find balance. Becoming a new mum is probably the most unbalanced time that you'll feel both mentally and physically. So for me, that was the kind of big idea behind it, was the fact that we were helping women find balance both physically and mentally. So from a mental perspective, we built up a really nice community for the moms. And then physically, we obviously do like strength-based style training, and we also do things like Pilates as well. But really trying to build up an overall strength so that you're balanced, so that your whole body is balanced, and effectively that will cause less injury for mums. But we can delve deeper into those kind of things later on. So for us, it was just about this idea of helping women just physically and mentally. And we do everything from prenatal classes, strength and also Pilates, postnatal classes as well, once again strength and Pilates. And before the lockdown, we did some really fun classes called Carry Baby Fit and TRX Baby Fit, where actually you held your baby, because we just kind of, although we had an amazing service where we looked after the babies, we did find that a lot of those moms actually wanted to kind of hold their babies and incorporate them into the exercises. So for postnatal, we had baby wearing and non-baby wearing classes. And then once you were kind of finished your postnatal journey, or we felt that you were strong enough to progress, you then went on to a thing called the Rebalance Blast, and it's effectively a blast, like we blast you, but we 100% take into consideration that you have had a baby and you still might have abdominal separation, so we will always offer those alternatives, and also offer like a low impact option for every exercise. So it's really that kind of like start as soon as you get pregnant, come along. You don't have to wait 12 weeks, but if you feel more comfortable, you do. So it's that kind of as soon as you get pregnant, all the way through. And when we say all the way through, we mean all the way through. I want to see you at 39 weeks, and I want to be able to help you with your optimal fetal positioning, everything, and get you ready for like labor and birth effectively. And then after that, we'll still be in touch with you, but it's that kind of like 6 weeks period where no one knows what to do. But we can give you advice and tips on what you can do during that period. After your 6-week checkup, you go to your physio and then you commence our classes. And that might commence with kind of, you can start with some Pilates and then progress into our circuits and then move on to the blast. But everyone is individual. And everyone's recovery is very different. And that's effectively what we do, and it's all done on Zoom at the moment, but we are looking to do more outdoor classes soon. So I hope that sums it up and gives you the answer to what Rebalance does.
Yeah, I mean, you've definitely explained what Rebalance does, and we'll go into how you set up Rebalance and why you set up, what sort of encouraged you to set up Rebalance in a second. But what I love about Rebalance is that you take everything into consideration. So you do have a physio on, like, as part of the team, and you think about all of those things as well, which I think I didn't realize that. I mean, I personally did have a physio checkup after I gave birth, but I have a lot of friends that didn't sort of understand the importance of having your body checked before you went back into exercise. And I think that's great, that Rebalance. So that's what you guys do offer, that you offer the whole package, so you don't have to worry about all the little things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just that point on seeing a physio, I mean, it's so important to go see a physiotherapist after you've had a baby. We get so many ladies that come in and say, I had my 6-week checkup, I'm ready to go. And that doesn't mean, go out and run a marathon. It means, like, come to us, or actually, before you even come to us, go see a physio, because your gynecologist hasn't done all of the checks that a physiotherapist will do. And if you come to us with all of that information, we can liaise with the physio and actually work with you better in a group class setting. So it's incredibly important to go see a physiotherapist. And on top of that, some ladies are not even able to come into a group class setting. They need to do one-to-one training before they even start. And a lot of these ladies, they don't know that they've got an issue until months down the line, where they have this chronic back pain and suddenly potentially notice a bulging in their tummy, and they have like this huge abdominal separation, had no idea that they had it. And ladies like that, they need to have this kind of one-to-one training rather than going into a group setting. So with the physio, she can tell us, what to do with that person, whether it's one-to-one or whether it's a group setting. And we can kind of work with that person to build them up to where they want to get to. So it's, even though we do group classes, it's very much on a one-to-one level basis. And we know all of our clients inside out.
That's great to know. That's incredible. So does that mean, like, sort of year postpartum, you're kind of like, oh, you've graduated Rebalance?
To be honest, if you have done nothing, like absolutely nothing, and you just came to us and you were like, oh, I want to do these Rebalance Blast challenges, I would ask you all the same questions. I would say, how's your pelvic floor? We'd ask several questions about kind of different things. When you cough, when you sneeze, your urgency to go to the bathroom. So, because if you're someone who hasn't done anything for a year, you could still be the same as someone who's 6 weeks postnatal. You could have a really weak pelvic floor and you've done nothing about it. You could still have quite a bit of abdominal separation, which isn't functioning, because it's all about its function. It's not about the size, it's about how it functions. So, like, even though you might be a year, you might actually be best to go into our postnatal circuits or go into a postnatal class for a couple of months and then progress through.
That makes sense. So really, if you've not done much exercise and you want to kind of get back into it, then the first point is to actually look into something like Rebalance and see if it's...
Yeah, I mean, like, the other thing is to remember is that, like, as mums, you're moving all the time. Like, so we talk about functional movement, and especially if you say, for instance, you have a 1-year-old, you're picking up your baby, you're rocking your baby to sleep for hours on end. We've all done that. You're patting your baby's bum in the cot. You're leaning over. All of these things are actually strengthening your muscles. So never feel that you've done nothing, because believe me, you've done a lot already. So you know, you might be strong enough to be able to go into the class, into a deeper progression class, which might be the Rebalance blast, or alternatively, as I said, it might mean that you need to go back to postnatal. So it would really be like an assessment on our part to see where it's best suited for you.
And what made you set up Rebalance? What was it for you that made you think that this is what's needed?
Well, it goes back a little bit. So I got into this business because when I was pregnant with my daughter Freya. So I've got 3 kids, Oscar, Freya, and Beatrix. And Freya is just about to turn 3. And when I was pregnant, I wasn't actually pregnant, but I was going to do a review for a prenatal class. And I was like, oh, this is really good. Oh, this is interesting. I thought they only did kind of Pilates and yoga for prenatal. And so I went to this gym in JLT, and I was like, this is amazing. And a week later, lo and behold, I was actually pregnant. So I joined the classes at 4 weeks. I'm pregnant. So I joined these classes of these prenatal strength style training, which included elements of cardio and included elements of prenatal strength. And it was all done with these biokineticists and also pre and postnatal trainers, and these girls were amazing. They were really, really good, and I was just in awe of them, of their knowledge and their expertise, bearing in mind I'd never like really stepped foot in like a macho kind of gym thing. I did a few like boot camps back in London and the likes, you know, on Clapham Common, but I hadn't done anything like this before that was so specific, and I had done none of that for my son Oscar. So this was really starting from week 4 pregnancy. I might as well have just walked in with the pregnancy test stick. So I really started from week 4 all the way through. And the biggest thing for me in this that got me into this was how it made me feel. You know, I felt so much stronger. Late into my 2nd trimester and 3rd trimester with my son Oscar, I had terrible back pain, and I mean awful. You know, with your first baby, I was like, oh, I'll leave the shopping like till like the end of my 2nd trimester, and then I'll start. And sure, I could barely walk. Like I was in agony all the time with my lower back, but I just wasn't strong. You know, I wasn't doing anything. I was like just being pregnant, walking around and doing my thing. I think I did like the odd yoga class. I think my husband bought me like a 10-pack of something that I might have used a couple of classes. So with this training, it was just incredible. So, you know, my back pain went, and like the absolute biggest thing was I suffer from gestational diabetes with all of my pregnancy. And strength training hugely changes the way that your body uses insulin. So we kind of turned myself into a bit of a science experiment. So I would go in and I would do this strength training as such. And I don't mean like really, really heavy weights or anything like that. You know, it was weights that felt good for me. And my sugar levels just suddenly like would not drop, because they never really drop. When you've got gestational diabetes, you don't suffer from dropping levels. You tend to just suffer from higher levels. So I would just find over a long period of time that my sugar levels were amazing. And I would go back and forth to my endocrinologist, and she was like, you know, this is totally due to the strength training that you're doing. So any gaps that I used to have where I wasn't training, my sugar levels would shoot up. So so I just kind of just kept going, you know, like, so if it wasn't every day, it was every other day. And so that massive change that it had from a gestational diabetes perspective was amazing. You know, it was really, really incredible. But you really have to kind of like hurt your muscles a little bit to kind of tap into those insulin reserves. So it was, so that was a big thing for me, was to really, like, it was the gestational diabetes, it was the lack of lower back pain, and overall I just felt amazing, and I wanted to kind of give that back to other mums. So this gym that I went to, I ended up kind of effectively becoming part of their team, and I went through my whole pregnancy with them, and then once I had the baby, I then kind of had this big gap of no exercise, and I was like, where are moms meant to go when you have a baby? And it's true. There's lots of classes that you can go and you can have your baby on the ground beside you and all this kind of stuff. But, with a new mom and you're breastfeeding, like some of the classes you end up feeding the baby for half of it. And I totally get that. So we just kind of created this really nice thing where we have this childcare side of things. So I became part of this team in JLT in a gym. We had prenatal and we had postnatal. And unfortunately, that gym closed down. And I later then started Rebalance, but started it with the mindset of really kind of helping mums from helping them mentally, do you know what I mean? Like really starting to push more into the idea of events. And when we do events, having all the speakers that they need there, then from a training perspective, not just do strength training, add other things, because everyone has their own, like some people, the idea of like picking up weights and stuff isn't really their bag. So then we incorporated things like the Pilates, and we incorporated the baby wearing. So we really tried to like tick all of the boxes for Rebalance, and that's kind of where I'm going. And in between all of that, I had another child, so Rebalance was actually set up the week that she was born, which was kind of crazy, but I did it. So that's kind of where it all began, and throughout that, I during all of this journey, I became a trainer myself. So I did my level 2, my level 3, my pre and postnatal training as well. And I've gone on to do kind of pelvic floor workshops, fascia release workshops. And I'm just trying to continue my own training. But what I try to do is actually try to look in the market at some really amazing trainers to bring them on board as well. Because I can't do everything at all. And there's so many amazing trainers out there that can help. And they have a lot more time than I do to continue their education. So for me, the most important thing is that we have excellent trainers for our mums and mums to be, and just a really, really nice community. And I drive a lot of the kind of community aspect of things as well. So that's where it's all come from. Kind of strange times at the moment with the lockdown and things like that. We do a lot of stuff on Zoom, but I mean, we're continuing to try, and the classes are doing really well.
Wow, that's like, it's so inspirational. One thing I want to ask you is, you compared your first pregnancy with the second pregnancy because you were working out. Was labor any different with the second pregnancy because you'd been working out throughout?
Would you believe that I've never gone into labor? Ever, ever, ever.
Oh, wow.
And so due to the gestational diabetes in my first pregnancy, I went in at 38 weeks. And they didn't even want to induce me. So long story short, she was like, you have to have a C-section. And it may have been the wrong decision, but, I was naive. I didn't know any better. So then for the second, I ended up with the C-section again. I think I wanted a VBAC, but can't remember why I didn't have, the diabetes again. Bearing in mind, your diabetes gets worse and worse as you have more and more pregnancies. So with the exercise, I fight it like crazy to stay off medication as much as I can. But, there's only so much they can push it. So I think they pushed it to 40 weeks with Freya, and there was no baby coming, so they took her out. So yes, to answer your question, I've never had labor, but what I will say from a C-section recovery perspective, if I look at my son, when I first had him, no exercise, I was in agony. Like, it was horrendous, and I felt like the recovery took ages. I went around with lower back pain until I was about 8 or 9 months pregnant, and then I suppose I just naturally started to kind of get better. Second, it was a game changer. I was strong in my legs, I was strong in my glutes, I knew all of the muscle groups, and I was able to kind of stand with confidence. And that's one of the things that I teach in my prenatal classes, is the idea of really working these muscle groups as much as possible for these scenarios, because you don't know what kind of birth you're going to have, right? So be prepared for everything, and your core is going to be incredibly weak afterwards. So having strong legs and strong arms will be able to really support you as you stand. So recovery wise, absolute game changer. Exercising in pregnancies versus not exercising in pregnancy. My husband was shocked, and actually he was even more shocked with Beatrix, who was my last one. Like within a couple of hours I was in the bathroom putting makeup on for whatever reason, don't know why. Instagram, obviously. But he was like, what, like I just can't get over this. And I was just like walking around doing my thing. So it was it's total and utter game changer. But you know, you still very much need the recovery. You don't want to move too quickly.
I love that, because I mean, I get asked all the time how labor was so quick for me, and I honestly put it down, a lot of it down to the fact that I was working out throughout the whole of pregnancy. And I was into strength training for a while before I became pregnant, and then so was strength training throughout pregnancy. And I really do put it down to being active. And so that's why I was curious as to whether it was like, if it's something that you experienced. But
no, I mean, and to be honest, like I recently asked all of the top, as many as I could, top experts, like the top gynecologists and the pelvic, like all of our kind of pelvic floor gurus and physiotherapists, about the importance of exercise during pregnancy and how it can impact your labor. And because, you know, who am I to say like how it might impact it? You know, like I know that it does. I know that it does from what I've read. But like, let's listen to the experts who are down the end of the bed seeing these babies pop out. And, you know, I've been working in this industry for 4 years and worked with a lot of people who've done strength training in pregnancy. And doctors have asked them afterwards what they were doing, because they just did incredibly well, you know, like a couple of pushes and the baby was out. We had one girl, I'll never forget, she had a water birth, and when the baby was coming, I think she got out or something like that, but she was in a squat position, and she was like, she could hold it for so long, and she was holding that squat position. And afterwards she sent us a message, and she was like, I would have never been able to hold that position for so long if it wasn't for you. And we all know that it's much better to birth your baby not lying on your back. So, you know, if you're strong and you can do it in different ways, like for instance in a kind of more squat position, then all of these kind of having the strong muscles will really, really help you. So yeah, as I said, all of the doctors were all saying it makes a huge difference. And on top of that, labor is called labor for a reason, right? It's difficult, it's hard. So if you're fit and you're healthy, fit, you know, like you've got your fit in your heart, that's going to help you as well. Everyone can birth a baby, right? Well, they can, hopefully, fingers crossed. And if not, that's what C-sections are there for. But that's why in the prenatal classes that we do, you know, we do cardio as well. Don't be scared to get your heart rate up when you're pregnant. It's actually really, really important, like super important for things like labor. But obviously you do it within the means, and you do it with the prenatal trainer. But like, it's a really important aspect to do that too.
So I went through my pregnancy and then post-pregnancy, the first few months, sort of 5 months of pregnancy after I gave birth, in the UK. So a lot of the advice in the UK from like midwives and doctors and people from day one, as soon as you're pregnant, there's no advice as to stop training. So as long as you don't do anything past what you were able to do before you were pregnant, like, you know, obviously if you've never strength trained before, they say don't go and just start strength training by yourself. You need support to do that. But I wonder how it's different here, because there's so many cultures here, and in some cultures it is normal to be advised to stop training or stop exercise or not lift bags, you know, like not lift the shopping bags, etc.
Yeah, my mum, and it's funny, like my mum, I've finished having babies now, just to let you know, just FYI. But my mum used to always say to me, as soon as I got pregnant, now Michelle, you know that you need to be very careful when you lift boxes. And now, honestly, Michelle, your ligaments, and that's all that it is. It's that your ligaments get lax during pregnancy. Okay, so if you don't know what you're doing and you're not using your breath to control your core, and you're not kind of loading properly, you could pick up a box incorrectly, or you could pick up a weight incorrectly, and you could do yourself a lot of damage.
Right. That's where it comes from.
So that's where it comes from. And, you know, there's a point to it. Have I ever seen anyone like massively injure themselves from that kind of thing? No. But we would do things very, very carefully, you know, and everyone does things at their own pace. And like when I say like strength training, you know, like we use resistant bands a lot. That's not difficult at all. We use elements of Pilates in our classes a lot because breath is incredibly important. We use weights like 2 kg, you know, I'm talking for someone, you know, it's not heavy, but actually if you hold a 2 kg and you do arm circles, you'll be killing me afterwards. So don't think this, when people think of strength training, they immediately see a barbell in their head and they're like, oh my God, I can't do that. Like, we're not going to be doing anything like that. Okay. And not to say that you can't, but you don't go directly into that kind of exercise if you haven't done it before, or you don't start running during pregnancy if you haven't done it before. Does that answer your question?
So that totally makes sense. And it's interesting because, if you're doing it in a class setting, it makes sense to have like strength but load in a slightly like in a lighter way. So 2 kg is not that bad. 2 kg is like a can of beans, isn't it?
A bit more than that, yeah. But yeah, not too far off it. You know, a lot of our classes we use tin cans, or you use your body weight. So you go body weight, tin cans. This is what's happened since lockdown. So it's body weight, tin cans, water bottles, and then it's like, go out to the shop and get some weights. That's how the progression starts.
And then do they kind of graduate Rebalance? Is that the kind of concept? Do you kind of get to a point where you've done like, you know, all of your training, you get to a point where you're strong enough, and then it's like, right, maybe you should move on to sort of gym classes that are a bit more sort of I don't want to use the word advanced because it's probably not the right word.
The right word is high impact.
Okay.
Yeah. So and high impact would be the likes of maybe an F45 class. Okay. When you're finished like Rebalance classes, for example, where you do your postnatal training, then you would move up to the Rebalance Blast. And we'd say like stick within, if you're finished your postnatal training and you're having absolutely no issues at all, and you really want to progress properly, like say you want to like start running again, you want to do a half marathon, you know, all of these things are so important actually sometimes for mums to have this bit of independence, like minus the baby for a while. Sorry to say that, but it's true. And that's when you should actually go back to your physio and see what's going on and see if you're strong enough and you're ready to take that next kind of big progression. If you're someone that just wants to kind of keep up exercise, then you could start things like our Rebalance Blast classes, where we really kind of pick up the tempo a lot. We do add a little bit of higher intensity, but we offer a lot of alterations, right, because your pelvic floor might still be weak, and that's okay. So we just offer the alterations within that. So yeah, it's definitely like a progression thing and how your body's coping with the exercise and what you've been given. But we can see in the class how people are getting stronger in the way that you move, in the way that you squat, in the way that you lunge. You know, you can watch the knees, you can see how that person is really starting to kind of pick up strength. So yeah, and then we challenge them, and then we offer kind of different things that they can do.
That's awesome. So if a listener wants to find out more about Rebalance, where would they do that, and how do they contact you?
So they can go on to Rebalance Me Now on Instagram. Alternatively, they can email on info@rebalancemenow.com. And that's kind of the two ways to do it.
Put all of that into the show note. Is there anything you'd like to add before we end?
I think the only thing that I would say is if there's any time that if you're a person who's never done any exercise and you're like, oh, I'm not really bothered about this, I totally get it. We're not trying to push everyone to do these kind of things. But even for just your mental well-being, you're going to see a big difference in terms of how you're feeling mentally when you exercise. So I would kind of, even if you're not that keen on it, just do it even for that factor. And even if you're like, you know, if you're not into classes or whatever, just get out and walk. Steps are absolutely incredible. You know, just walk. And even just that will make you feel better. So yeah, just take care of yourselves, both mentally and physically.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, and I love that. Thank you again, Michelle, for making the time today. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I know this will be so valuable for the listeners.
No worries. It was lovely to have a chat, and now it's back to mummy duties. I'm sure that they'll all wake up soon and pick ups and all sorts. But yeah, no, thank you so much, and hopefully see you at one of our events at some point.